Thank you, Shelley. So we have a few minutes for questions. If there are any questions from the audience, we still have microphones, or stand up, whatever, if you have some. I'll start with one. What are your views on the eastern supplies and the interaction between the changing of various eastern flows and other pipeline flows on your pipes, Rocky pipes, and do you have any perspective on what opportunities that might create or what the impacts are? John, do you want to start with that one?
Yeah, David, I wish it wasn't happening. No, yeah, seriously, we do view the development of the shale gas, especially in the Marcellus, as a potential opportunity for REX. We do have a very desirable east to west corridor with over 8 BCF of delivery point capacity on that pipe, and we could envision seeing bidirectional flow on that pipe as the supplies develop out there and as regional capacity constraints develop.
Will, any perspective? East to west? I know you're going to the west, but...
We're going to the west, yes. They're coming out with the Utica. Could be as big as the Eagle Ford now, and so, again, you're going to have a lot more supplies coming into the eastern side of the markets, and again, we're hopeful that Ruby is the pipeline to continue to take us gas west once that production comes on.
So you take gas from western New York to California?
If need be.
Maybe you can work a joint deal with Eagleton here.
We'll have to talk to Shelley about how to do that.
Yeah, there'd be a...
in both directions.
Shelley, any views?
That's never a problem. We'll flow gas any way you want it to go. That's one opportunity. I think it's important for all of us as pipelines in this area to do whatever we can to remain nimble, I guess, is maybe a way to look at it. Certainly, the gas supply that we see, the production we see coming in the east is, it's a game changer. It does change the landscape, and we need to be aware of that, stay on top of it, and see how we might be able to provide opportunities in this area as well. I think it's important to do whatever we can to keep production flowing in this region and make sure that it's economic so that it can continue to flow to market. Other than that, I think we just have to be aware of it and do what we can.
Anybody else? Any audience questions? We have one.
Last
Chris.
question can maybe hit on a little bit. I have a perception. I'd like to get your view on it, whether you think it's accurate or not. One, we've got a more interconnected North American grid. Two, there aren't the congestion issues, except maybe in certain areas of the Marcellus or something like that right now that we once had. There isn't the perception of scarcity of supply that maybe we once had. And I think that's influencing the contracting behavior on natural gas pipeline capacity. And I'm wondering, and it seems like in certain instances at least that you sort of have the standoff between those who maybe won't recontract for capacity and the pipelines on the other side saying, well, in that case, I'm going to charge you this kind of price for IT, let's say. And it seems like there's a tension there, and that maybe we need to start looking at rate cases and things like that through a different lens. And I'm wondering if you agree with that perception, or if you have any ideas around how things will go forward in terms of rates.
Who's ready for that one? John?
At Northwest, everything we do, we always look at contract extension, because that is a concern to be financially viable. When you're going out to refinance, the banks are always looking at your contract terms. So everything we do, we look at, can we negotiate a part of the, whatever we're doing, contract extension. And we have been very, very successful at that in the last several years. So yeah, contract extensions is a big issue. You want to stay out of rate cases. You want to keep your rates low, and contract extension's one way of doing it.
Todd, maybe some comments with a Canadian view of recontracting?
Well, no, I'm not going to comment on the Canadian side, but lots of the assets that we have, we've been through some rate cases recently. GTN's working through a settlement process. For us, it seems the way to handle that is to try and work closely with the customers in a settlement type environment, recognizing that there will always be tension between what the customers want, a low rate, and what the pipeline needs to be able to sustain operations. So, our recent experience on the GTN side was work closely with the customers, and it's much easier to try and create an environment where everyone gets what they need.
Yeah, on the CIG system.
You can talk about Tennessee, too, if you want.
No, I can't talk about Tennessee. On the CIG system, we were successful in having a settlement with our customers. Our customers saw the amount of capacity expiring in the later years of our settlement, and through negotiation we were able to have some sort of sharing mechanism so that when times are good we can credit excess revenues back to our customers, but when times get a little bit more difficult we do have a surcharge mechanism. So that is also a mechanic of a pipeline to be able to work with our shippers and work with our customers to try to weather these storms and weather these times in uncertainty.
Okay. I'd heard one comment, I'm not sure, somebody talked about depressed basis, which I think producers probably don't look at narrow basis and say it's depressed. They generally think of it as compressed, although obviously they own transportation. But any comments on, from a pipeliner's view, what's your thoughts on basis and what that means for pipelines and producers in the Rockies? Anybody?
No, I'll take that one. As we've talked about rates, we've always got our relative interest relative to producers shipping gas and pipeliners wanting to charge a fee. But in my mind, what it really boils down to is a demand side question. If we can somehow stimulate demand and have the country recognize that natural gas is a valuable resource that is kind to the environment and develop that, then it solves a lot of these problems that we're talking about today and for everyone.
Todd?
Yeah, I believe with the basis market and everything the way it is, it's probably highly cyclical. And right now we're seeing, at least on the supply side, a lot of supply out there, different portions of the country. When you look out long term and see the compression of the basis, demand really hasn't changed a whole lot. And demand is going to continue to be there in the same locations that it was before. And if you look out long term and you say, okay, going out 10 years, it looks like basis is going to be compressed. Well, there's got to be a way to get from that financial spread to a physical delivery. And the only way that's going to happen is for shippers and customers to take out capacity contracts on pipelines to actually move the gas there. So sometimes I think when people look at long-term spreads, there's a little bit of a disconnect between what the spreads are showing and what the actual value of capacity is. So I don't think it's necessarily 100% accurate to say that they're going to be depressed and it's always going to be that way. And I think when demand does pick up a little bit, and I think that's going to change over time.
Anybody else?
I would just echo some of these comments that it is important to create some additional demand and really market what a wonderful supply opportunity or source of supply that natural gas is. I think certainly with power generation, that's probably one of the big opportunities that we see out there. And that's probably the one that can make enough of a difference in moving demand at all. I think some of the other CNG is going to only move at a small amount unless you really see a huge wave change. So that's important to provide those opportunities and work with customers carefully to ensure that they are able to get their needs met with transport.
Okay. Well, I want to thank the panelists. That you do a beautiful job. Thanks for all your hard work, and give a pipeliner a hug. I think they could use it.